All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to another deep dive with us.
Glad to have y'all back.
Yeah, it's so good to be connecting with you again and diving into another one of these fascinating topics that honestly like impact all of us in ways we probably don't even realize, right?
Absolutely. And, I'm really excited about this particular topic.
Me too, me too.
Yeah.
But before we jump in, just a little reminder, a little nudge for anyone who might be new here, or maybe you've just missed a few of our previous deep dives.
Yeah.
Head over to our back catalog. It's waiting for you. Like, seriously, it's like a treasure trove of digital wisdom nuggets
Wisdom nuggets.
just waiting to be discovered. And honestly, like, who doesn't love a good treasure hunt, right?
I mean, I do.
That's-
You never know what you might find.
You might even find something that like totally shifts your perspective on
Yeah,
something
well.
or gives you like a really practical tip that you can use right away. So yeah, go check it out. Okay, so today we're tackling something that's, I think, super relevant for everyone who's kind of like, living and breathing in this digital age, which is pretty much all of us at this point, right? We're talking about digital connection
That's right.
and how to actually like master it, how to make it work for us instead of feeling like we're constantly like drowning in it.
Yeah.
And by mastering it, we're talking about like building genuine human connections online, right?
Exactly. It's not just about being online.
Right.
It's about connecting with people in a way that feels real.
Yes,
That
exactly.
feels meaningful.
And especially, these days when so many of us are working remotely or, finding our communities in online spaces, it's like, how do we navigate this whole digital landscape without losing that sense of real connection?
Hmm.
So for this deep dive, we've been digging into a bunch of different discussions and research around digital connection, right?
We have.
Looking at what it means psychologically, how it affects our mental health, and most importantly, like what are some practical strategies, actionable things we can actually do to build those stronger, healthier relationships online?
Yeah, because there's a lot of talk about it.
There is.
But we want to give you something you can actually use.
Exactly. Something you can take away and actually apply to your own life.
Right.
So let's just start with like a basic definition.
Okay.
What do we actually mean when we say digital connection? Because it's not just about like, how many followers you have on Instagram or
Oh.
how many likes your latest post got.
Right. It's so much more than that. Digital connection, as we're looking at it, encompasses a whole bunch of things. I mean, think about it. You've got remote work, which has become huge for a lot of people.
Yeah, a huge part of their lives.
Yeah. I mean, that's their primary way of connecting with colleagues.
And their work and
Yeah.
everything.
And their work. Yeah, exactly. And then you have online communities, these spaces where people come together around, shared interests, hobbies, maybe even just looking for a sense of belonging, which is so important.
Absolutely.
And of course, you can't talk about digital connection without talking about social media.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of the elephant in the room.
It is.
It's this huge part of our lives. And it has its pros and cons, for sure.
Definitely.
But it's definitely a major player in the digital connection landscape.
And then there's this whole other piece of the puzzle, which is digital wellness.
Yes.
Right. How do we manage our relationship with all this tech so that it doesn't completely take over our lives?
Right. Because it's easy to get sucked in
It is. It is.
and, spend hours scrolling and not even realize where the time has gone.
Totally. And, speaking of getting sucked in, one of the things we kept coming across in our research was this term digital loneliness.
Yes.
And I'm curious, is that like a real thing? Or is it just like a buzzword that people are throwing around?
Oh, it's definitely a real thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a real feeling that people are experiencing.
Yeah.
And you can see it in the trends, too. Like if you look at Google Trends data, searches for digital loneliness, remote work, online community, all of those are on the rise.
Interesting.
And it makes sense, right? I mean, we can be so connected digitally, constantly bombarded with notifications and messages, but still feel deeply isolated.
Right. Like you can have like 1,000 friends on Facebook, but still feel like you have no one to talk to.
Exactly. And I think that's the paradox of digital connection, right? We have all these tools to connect, but they don't always translate into meaningful connection.
Yeah, it's like we're constantly surrounded by people online, but we're not actually connecting with them on a deeper level. And we were looking at some really interesting articles from The Atlantic, Wired, and Harvard Business Review.
Oh, yeah.
And they were all talking about how this shift to remote work, while it has its advantages, flexibility, no commute, all that good stuff, it can also make it harder to build those genuine connections with colleagues.
Yeah, because you're missing out on those spontaneous
Yes, it's
interactors.
totally like you're not bumping into each other in the hallway or grabbing coffee together.
Right, those water cooler moments.
Exactly. And those can actually be really important for building rapport and trust.
Absolutely. And for you, our listener, I'm curious, have you experienced this? Have you felt that sense of disconnect even when you're technically connected online?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
Like, I've definitely had those days where I'm working from home and the most interaction I have is with my coffee maker,
I hear you.
right? Like, it's like, should I have another cup? Maybe not.
The struggle is real.
It is. It is. So if we are spending so much time online and it's not always leading to meaningful connection, what's the impact on our mental health?
That's a really important question.
Yeah.
And it's something that researchers are really starting to delve into. And, some of the studies we looked at from Psychology Today in the Cleveland Clinic suggest that there's a link between excessive digital engagement and things like stress and anxiety.
Okay, so too much screen time, not so good for our mental health.
Yeah, especially if it's passive screen time, like just scrolling and scrolling without really engaging with anything.
Right. It's like our brains are just constantly bombarded with information.
Exactly. And it can be overwhelming
Totally.
and, lead to that feeling of digital overload that I think a lot of us are familiar with.
For sure. For sure. But okay, so it's not all doom and gloom, right? There must be some ways to use digital tools to actually enhance our well-being.
Absolutely. And that's where the idea of digital wellness comes in.
Okay, tell me more about that.
So digital wellness is all about being more mindful and intentional about how we use technology. It's about creating a healthier relationship with our devices so that they serve us instead of the other way around.
So it's not about like throwing away our phones and living off the grid.
Not as,
Okay, good, because I don't think I could do that.
I mean, if that's your thing, great.
Yeah.
But for most of us, it's about finding a balance, right? It's about setting boundaries and making sure that technology is enhancing our lives, not detracting from it.
Right, like using it as a tool,
Exactly.
but not letting it become like the boss of us.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we actually practice digital wellness?
Well, there are a lot of different things you can do,
Okay.
but one of the most important is just being aware of your own habits.
Like noticing how much time you're spending online.
Yeah, and how it's making you feel. Are you feeling stressed, anxious? Are you neglecting other areas of your life because you're so engrossed in your phone?
Right, and I think sometimes it's easy to just kind of go on autopilot, like you're just scrolling and scrolling and you don't even realize how much time has passed.
Totally, and that's why it's so important to be intentional about your digital consumption. Choose to engage with content that makes you feel good, that inspires you, that educates you.
Okay, so it's not just about cutting back on screen time. It's also about being more selective about what you're consuming.
Exactly. It's about quality over quantity.
I like that.
And, when it comes to building meaningful connections online, there's some interesting research in journals like the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships that highlights how genuine interactions, even online, can be really effective in combating feelings of isolation.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. It's like, even though you're not physically with someone, you can still have a real heart-to-heart conversation with them online.
Right, it's like that feeling of being seen and heard.
Exactly. And have you ever noticed that? Like the difference between just scrolling through your feed and actually having a back and forth conversation with someone.
Oh, absolutely. It's like scrolling through your feed can sometimes feel like eating a bag of chips. You know, you're kind of consuming it, but it doesn't really nourish you.
It's empty calories.
Exactly, empty calories.
Yeah. Whereas a real conversation, even online, can be like a home-cooked meal. It fills you up. It gives you something to think about.
I love that analogy.
Right.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges of digital connection. We've talked about the importance of digital wellness. But now let's get to the good stuff. What are some concrete things we can actually do to build those real connections online and feel better about our digital lives?
All right, so let's get practical.
Yes, please.
So the first step is what we call notice and assess.
Okay, so kind of like taking stock of where we're at.
Exactly. It's about becoming aware of your own digital habits
Okay.
and really paying attention to how they're making you feel.
Like, are you spending hours scrolling mindlessly?
Yeah. Or are you finding yourself in online spaces where everyone agrees with you all the time?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. Because that can actually be a sign that you're in an echo chamber, which can limit your exposure to different perspectives.
Right, and it's easy to fall into that trap online because algorithms are designed to show you content that you're likely to engage with.
Exactly. So it takes conscious effort to break out of those bubbles.
Okay, so once you've kind of assessed your digital habits, what's the next step?
Well, the next step is to actively diversify your feed.
Okay, so like adding some variety to our digital diet.
Exactly. And there are a lot of ways to do this. One thing you can do is to actively seek out and engage with a range of voices and viewpoints. Don't just follow people who think exactly like you.
Right.
Challenge yourself to listen to different perspectives, even if they make you uncomfortable.
Okay, and how do we actually do that? Like, where do we find these diverse voices?
Well, there are a lot of great resources out there. Platforms like Reddit, for example, have communities dedicated to respectful discussion across different perspectives. There's a subreddit called Change My View, which is specifically designed for that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And you can also explore AI-powered tools that can help you discover content outside of your usual bubble. These tools can recommend articles, videos, podcasts, all sorts of things that you might not have found on your own.
Okay, so it's like using technology to help us break out of our technological bubbles.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the third step is about creating digital rituals.
Okay,
Yeah,
rituals.
so this is about being intentional about how and when you engage with technology. It's about creating some structure around your digital life so that it doesn't just kind of take over.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure, so one digital ritual you could create is setting regular screen-free times.
Okay, like no phones after a certain hour.
Exactly. Or no phones during meals or no phones in the bedroom,
Right.
whatever works for you.
And I imagine this would help with sleep too, right? Because the blue light from our devices can interfere with our sleep.
Absolutely. And it can also help you be more present in your offline life.
Okay, so we're setting boundaries, we're diversifying our feeds. What else can we do to build stronger digital connections?
Well, the fourth step is to engage authentically.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means moving beyond passive consumption and actually starting real conversations with people.
Okay, so like commenting on someone's post and asking them a genuine question.
Exactly. Or sending someone a direct message and telling them you enjoyed their article or video.
Right, like actually engaging with people instead of just liking their stuff.
Yes. And the key here is authenticity.
Okay, so be yourself, be genuine.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to be vulnerable.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Right. Like share your own thoughts and experiences, even if they're a little bit messy or imperfect.
Because that's what makes us human, right?
Exactly. And it's what allows people to connect with you on a deeper level.
I agree. I think sometimes we're so afraid of being judged online that we just present this perfect, curated version of ourselves, which can actually make it harder to connect with people.
Totally. And, don't forget the power of humor.
Oh, yes. Humor is so important.
It can really help to break the ice and make people feel more comfortable.
For sure. For sure.
And the fifth and final step is to leverage digital wellness tools.
Okay. Tools like apps and stuff.
Yeah, so there are a lot of great apps and resources out there that can help you manage your digital life more mindfully.
Okay. Give me some examples.
Sure. So there are apps that can help you track and limit your screen time, like Moment or Freedom.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard of those.
Yeah, and there are also apps that can help you practice mindfulness, like Headspace or Calm.
Right, because mindfulness can be really helpful for just being more aware of your thoughts and feelings and habits.
Exactly. And when you're more mindful of your digital habits, you're more likely to make choices that support your well-being.
Makes sense.
And in addition to apps, there are also a lot of great websites and articles and books out there on digital wellness.
Right, so lots of resources to help us navigate this digital world.
Definitely.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot of practical strategies, but we also wanted to bring in some expert perspectives, right?
Yes, because, there are some really insightful thinkers and researchers who have a lot to say about digital connection and digital well-being.
Okay, so who are some of the experts we should be listening to?
Well, one expert whose work we really admire is Brené Brown.
Oh, yes, I love Brené Brown.
She's amazing, and her work on vulnerability and authenticity is so relevant to digital communication.
Totally, because like we were saying earlier, it's easy to present this perfect curated version of ourselves online, but that's not how real connection happens.
Exactly, and Brené Brown really emphasizes the importance of showing up as your true self, even when it's scary or uncomfortable.
Right, because that's how we build trust and intimacy, both online and offline.
Exactly.
And another expert whose work is really relevant to this conversation is Cal Newport.
Oh, yes, Cal Newport.
He's the author of Digital Minimalism, which is a great book, by the way.
It is a great book.
And he talks about how to be more intentional with our technology use, how to choose the tools that actually serve us, and how to use them in a way that doesn't distract us from the things that are truly important to us.
Right. It's about being mindful and selective with your technology, not just letting it consume you.
I love that, mindful and selective.
Right.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here today, but before we wrap up, we want to hear from you, our amazing listener.
Yes, we want to know what you think.
Have you ever had a moment where you consciously shifted your digital habits and felt a real difference in your connection with others or your own well-being?
Yeah, like, did you try any of these strategies?
Maybe you set some boundaries around your screen time, or you made an effort to diversify your feed, or you started engaging more authentically with people online.
We'd love to hear your stories.
Yeah, tell us about your experiences, the good, the bad, the funny, the awkward, whatever.
We're all ears.
Seriously, don't be shy. Share your insights with us using hashtag digital sleepover connection.
We might even feature your story on a future episode.
Yes, we would love that.
So don't hold back.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into mastering digital connection, what's the big takeaway?
The big takeaway is that building meaningful relationships online and fostering digital well-being takes intentionality and authenticity.
I love that. Intentionality and authenticity.
Right. It's not something that just happens passively. It's something that we have to actively cultivate.
Exactly, and it's something that's worth the effort.
Absolutely.
So thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Yes,
We're so grateful that you're here with us, and we hope you found this conversation helpful.
we hope so.
And for a final thought to chew on, consider just one small, maybe even tiny step you can take today to cultivate a more meaningful digital connection. What might that one little thing look like for you?
That's a great question.
Until next time, keep those digital connections real.
We'll see you soon.